Hola, muy buenas. En el programa Energía al Máximo seguimos hablando sobre los temas energéticos. El mayor consumidor mundial de energía, el mayor emisor anual de gases de efecto invernadero del mundo, el país con el mayor crecimiento económico, la superpotencia de energías renovables. China desempeña un papel muy importante en la configuración de las tendencias energéticas mundiales. Pekín necesita producir más energía para una economía que crece y al mismo tiempo reducir sus emisiones de CO2. Esta contradicción. China es a la vez el mayor consumidor de carbón y el mayor productor y mercado muy grande de energías renovables. Armas verdes, como lo suelen llamar algunos expertos hoy. Uno de los mayores desafíos de China sigue siendo la reducción de contaminación y el sistema energético sostenible. Buscando este equilibrio entre la energía verde y marrón, nos interesa no solamente impacto en el medio ambiente, sino conocer de qué manera se logrará la transformación china en medio de los desafíos climáticos y geopolíticos. Lo que China hace o dejará de hacer tendrá un impacto muy importante en el sistema energético global. Hoy nos gustaría entender mejor la política energética de China y las tendencias que pueden surgir. Vamos a hablar con varios expertos directamente de Beijing. Bueno, antes de conocer los detalles de las tendencias de la mano de los expertos, vamos primero a ver qué es lo que está ocurriendo en China, cómo se está transformando. ¿Por qué ahora mismo precisamente es interesante ver dónde y cómo China evalúa y conocer sus indicadores económicos y climáticos? Primero, el concepto de civilización ecológica. Se estaba desarrollando en los últimos años en la sociedad china con varios objetivos, pero es una frase muy poco conocida fuera de sus fronteras. Civilización ecológica. Es una promesa para equilibrar el crecimiento económico y la protección del medio ambiente. Realmente este término es muy presente desde el año 2017. Xi Jinping pidió al gobierno que tenga un fuerte compromiso con la civilización ecológica y a pesar de que en algunos medios occidentales lo califican como el triunfo del estilo sobre la sustancia, el objetivo, por ejemplo, de la neutralidad de carbono de Pekín para el año 2060, el compromiso de alcanzar el pico de emisiones para el año 2030, forman parte de este concepto de civilización ecológica. En segundo lugar, China tiene planes de desarrollo quincenales y ahora se encuentra precisamente en los 2 últimos años del actual periodo de este plan gubernamental de desarrollo. China ha estado emitiendo los planes de desarrollo de los 5 años desde la década de 1950. Los objetivos políticos establecidos en estos planes se consideran indicadores muy importantes de cumplir, que guían precisamente este desarrollo económico y social de China. Y en este plan en concreto, para el 2025, China dice que reducirá la intensidad energética en un 13,5% con respecto a los niveles del año 2020. Al mismo tiempo, por ejemplo, China en este mismo plan se compromete a alcanzar los 1.200 gigavatios de capacidad renovable para el 2030, más del doble de su capacidad en el momento de la adopción del plan, es decir, del año 2020. O sea, doblar la capacidad de renovables. Estos planes marcan el desarrollo de China. En marzo de este año, del año 2024, durante la sesión de la Asamblea Nacional, el primer ministro de China, Li Qiang, entregó el informe de trabajo del gobierno para este año y él enfatizó la importancia de mejorar la protección del medio ambiente en el año 2024 y también hizo hincapié en el concepto de que las montañas verdes y las aguas cristalinas son tan valiosas como las montañas de oro y plata. Es decir, China tenía décadas de crecimiento del PIB, el modelo de desarrollo con su dependencia del carbón había sumido a China en múltiples crisis de contaminación, de aire, del agua, y en la primera fase de su rápido desarrollo industrial, China era obligada a conceder licencias tecnológicas de propiedad ajena. Y ahora la ambición estratégica es dominar el campo de nuevas energías. China ha logrado en gran medida su objetivo de dominar no solo la producción de tecnologías solares y eólicas, sino también ha desarrollado casi un monopolio en todos los aspectos de las cadenas de suministro, incluido la extracción y procesamiento de tierras raras, de minerales estratégicos, esenciales precisamente para hacer esta revolución de la energía limpia. Vamos a ver en las siguientes gráficas precisamente estos parámetros, cómo China está evaluando, qué indicadores climáticos y en capacidad de renovable está mostrando. Precisamente en esta misma gráfica vemos que China instaló más paneles solares en el año 2023 que el resto del mundo. Este logro no solo solidifica la posición de China como una potencia de energía renovable, sino también la diferencia de Estados Unidos, que es ahora mismo el segundo mercado solar más grande del mundo. En el año 2023 también se instaló un récord de nueva capacidad de turbinas eólicas, que era un año muy importante en el desarrollo de esta industria. En todo el mundo ha sido un récord en la instalación de turbinas eólicas. Y la capacidad mundial aumentó un récord del 50%. China, en este crecimiento, representó el 65% de capacidad mundial eólica. El Consejo Mundial de Energía Eólica indica que China no solo se ha convertido en la base de fabricación líder de turbinas eólicas, pero también en el centro de producción más grande de componentes primas clave. En este crecimiento de instalaciones eólicas, los fabricantes chinos de turbinas dominan los primeros puestos en el ranking mundial. China está ahora, dicen muchos expertos, y lo consideran, que China está ahora en el camino realmente de alcanzar este objetivo de 1.200 gigavatios que se ha propuesto en su plan de capacidad renovable instalada, y realmente lo puede alcanzar 5 años antes del objetivo. El objetivo es el año 2030, o sea que ya está aumentando tan rápido, como lo vemos, más que incluso que todo el mundo, como el mundo en totalidad, que lo puede alcanzar mucho antes. El monumental aumento de la energía solar y de la energía eólica demuestra el compromiso realmente del país con la energía limpia. Hay que, por supuesto, destacar que no solamente esta capacidad de introducción de las instalaciones renovables, sino que también China es el productor de menor coste para todas estas tecnologías renovables, ya que instalaciones, por ejemplo, en Estados Unidos o en Europa suelen ser entre un 70 y un 130% más caras por una unidad de capacidad de producción que las de China. Con esto podemos decir que China ha cumplido sistemáticamente su promesa de civilización ecológica y ha logrado resultados muy tangibles en la construcción de este concepto. Hoy en día, las armas verdes, que también lo llaman estas nuevas energías, son utilizadas de forma muy activa por China. China ve que la introducción de fuentes de energía renovables como una oportunidad para garantizar la seguridad energética y su desarrollo económico. Se refleja también el intento de China de transformar el estímulo económico, de depender de la infraestructura, de los bienes, de la industria pesada, a incentivar a las empresas que desarrollen tecnologías innovadoras, o sea, cambiar su estructura económica. Esto ha llevado ya a algunas de las preocupaciones e incluso tensiones con algunos de los países del resto del mundo. En opinión de la Secretaría del Tesoro de Estados Unidos, Janet Yellen, ella advierte básicamente de que esto genera riesgos significativos para los trabajadores y las empresas en Estados Unidos y en el resto del mundo, y que pueden alterar los precios mundiales. A pesar de este desarrollo de energías renovables que nos ha demostrado que China ha sido muy clara sobre el lado de las oportunidades del cambio climático e instalación de renovables, ha sido y es menos entusiasta sobre la reducción de sus propias emisiones. Aunque la cultura política de China concede una gran importancia al cumplimiento de sus objetivos declarados en los planes, una serie de compromisos climáticos están actualmente fuera de estos objetivos. El crecimiento de la energía limpia no fue suficiente para seguir el ritmo del aumento de la demanda energética, que aumentó en torno a un 6%. Desde la pandemia, el crecimiento del PIB de China ha sido impulsado por sectores intensivos en energía, la inversión continua en infraestructura, en capacidad de fabricación, la actividad de la construcción, ha sido un importante motor del crecimiento chino, lo que ha impulsado la intensidad energética realmente de forma importante. El rápido crecimiento de la demanda de electricidad y la debilidad de las lluvias también impulsaron la demanda de energía de carbón en el año 2030. Vemos cómo ha cambiado precisamente estas emisiones de CO2 de China del año 2022 al año 2023 y precisamente los componentes que han llevado al aumento de las emisiones, desde los factores coyunturales, como por ejemplo pues la sequía, falta de producción de hidráulica, las temperaturas que han sido bastante medianas, que no han requerido mucha calefacción, pero también se ha reactivado el tema del transporte después de la pandemia, mucho más emisiones de combustión, y también lo que veis en la columna roja, sobre todo la actividad económica. En total, esto ha llevado a que las emisiones de CO2 de China crecieron un 565 millones de toneladas en el año 2023 hasta alcanzar 12,6 gigatoneladas. Esto representa un aumento de casi 5%. El impresionante progreso de China en la transición hacia las energías renovables se ve amenazado por la construcción de nuevas centrales eléctricas alimentadas con carbón. Realmente pueden deshacer todos los esfuerzos del gobierno para combatir la contaminación ambiental. En esta siguiente gráfica vemos cómo se han ido construyendo las plantas de carbón en todo el mundo y en China en rojo y en todo el mundo en naranja. El carbón representaba ya una parte significativa y lo sigue siendo del consumo de energía de China, aproximadamente el 56%, y China representó el 95% de la nueva actividad mundial de construcción de las plantas de carbón el año pasado, en el año 2023. Lo vemos precisamente cómo ha ido evolucionando la capacidad de las centrales a carbón chinas en rojo y cómo ha ido en el resto del mundo, que incluso tenía una tendencia a la baja. También es muy importante tener en cuenta el factor de capacidad de las plantas, que realmente nos indica la frecuencia con la que funciona a máxima potencia. Y ahora, estas plantas de carbón en China, su factor está en torno al 50%. China está ofreciendo incluso pagos por capacidad a las centrales eléctricas para mantenerlas en funcionamiento. Algunos incluso expertos proyectan que a finales de la década muchas plantas de carbón van a ganar más dinero por no funcionar que por producir energía. Por lo tanto, el carbón realmente es el combustible que ofrece flexibilidad al sistema energético de China. A pesar de muchos pasos positivos hacia la sostenibilidad, las emisiones de CO2 siguen dirección contraria. Estas contradicciones se refuerzan entre los planteamientos de la política energética a largo plazo de China, que quiere reducir las emisiones, y las planificaciones administrativas a corto plazo que requieren un suministro flexible, que aprueben a nivel local las nuevas plantas de carbón. ¿Cómo cambia el patrón de la economía china con la mayor reorientación de la producción de sectores industriales avanzados? ¿Qué prioridades va a hacer el gobierno de China en su política energética y cómo esto puede impactar a las empresas? Pues son cuestiones muy interesantes a tener en cuenta. Let's talk now with AFRY International Consulting, present in more than 40 countries in the world, and energy sector is definitely one of its area of expertise. And today we have with us Principal Lead of China Management Consulting, Peipei Gao. Peipei, hello. Good evening for you.
Hi, Maria. Very glad to talk to you today. Yeah, that's a great opportunity to share this energy transition progress in China, and happy to know that people are interested to understand more.
Yes, we are very interested, and my first question is, what are the main transformation of Chinese economy switching from this high-speed growth towards high-quality growth, and how does it impact energy sector?
Yeah, with the economy entering a new normal, a managed transition from the production to a higher value-added growth and domestic consumption, the Chinese economy has begun to deliver slower growth rate since 2016. China government managed to keep the annual average GDP growth rates at around 5% during and after the COVID period, actually. As the economy moving towards the domestic consumption and a greater share of the services, commercial, and customer activities. Thirdly, sector's GDP has shifted from 48% 10 years ago to 55% by the mid of last year. As a result, the economy are increasingly driven by a more energy efficient tertiary sector, which putting downward pressure on the energy demand growth rate as well. We believe the decline of this energy demand growth rate will continue, though to be offset by the other factors. So if we look at the energy consumption mix, the share of the non-fossil fuels, including renewables, hydro, nuclear, etc., in the total primary energy consumption will continue to grow from 11% in 10 years ago to 17% in 2022. And it is expected to achieve 20% next year. That indicates a very clearly trend of decarbonization in order to meet China's 2030 carbon peak and 2060 carbon neutrality target. The energy transition is happening everywhere, yeah.
Yes, and the manufacturing of this clean tech, of renewables, is a quite energy-intensive process. And how will this impact Chinese energy demand for fossil fuels to support this, this manufacturing of clean technologies? I refer to carbon, to gas imports.
Yes, indeed. China's economy is continue to grow, such as the clean tech manufacturing industry, as you mentioned, and so is our energy demand as well. And the key is how China could balance its growth of the energy demand with the need to decarbonize. So back in 2020, China already committed to achieve the net zero by 2060. This is equivalent of reducing like 300 million tons of the CO2 emission per year. And by the way, you might know that Spain's annual greenhouse gas emission is around 300 million. So you can appreciate how big it is a challenge for China to reduce emission equivalent to those of entire Spain every year. To achieve this level of the decarbonization, renewable energy is the key. China in 2020 has already announced the target to install 1,200 gigawatts wind and solar capacity by 2030, which means that that's almost 3 times of the current installed capacity in EU. In fact, we expect China to achieve this target 5 years ahead of the time, that is basically next year. So at the same time, China is also facing with the energy security concerns and need to find solutions because the output of the renewable power is unstable, highly dependent on the weather, etc. To do this, China has the notably built of the thermal plants fired by the coal and by the gas, which of course are more carbon intensive than renewable. But it's important to note, though, that China is also raising the bar with the type of the thermal plant that are allowed to be built. And those new plants are using more energy efficient technologies, for example, like ultra supercritical. So additionally, China is diversifying its solution and through the promotion of the energy storage solutions such as battery and pumped hydro. And also the excess of the electricity from the renewables can be stored away instead of being wasted. That also reduces the need for the thermal plant. And to make these emerging technologies commercially viable, China is also introducing a range of the policies and market incentives. So in summary, you could say China's energy transition story is not an easy one. It is neither building a renewable mindlessly or regressingly to fossil fuel power system is always a complicated topic. Many technologies are needed at once to ensure a safety transition to a greener power grid. So in fact, 15% of the power generated in China today comes from wind and solar alone. So, of course, it might be a bit of catching up to do comparing to Europe, but considering China's continuous economic growth, that is also a significant progress already. And we expect China to stay on track to peak its carbon emission by 2030.
And I may ask you about this. Take into account the commercial tense context of relations between China and the EU. From your experience, from your observation, what do you note from the market? How Chinese companies in renewable sector, how do they feel if they continue to expand in European countries?
Yes, actually, according to the announced policy from the central government, China will keep encouraging the investments to the international market, including European markets. Last year, China's outbound direct investment is something around $150 billion, among which the investment in the non-financial sectors is $130 billion, with a year-on-year growth rate about 11%. And so currently, Chinese companies, especially the companies with advanced technology or well-established brands, are aggressively expanding its overseas portfolio. So the outbound merger and acquisition claimed by the Chinese company is around $40 billion last year, and that's equivalent to 20% of the year-on-year growth. And if we focus on the One Belt, One Road region, that year-on-year growth rate is actually 30+. So in terms of the Europe, there are total around $10 billion of the M&A transactions in this region, and the main targeting countries are in UK, Germany, Poland, and Netherlands. The most popular sectors are TMT, advanced technology, and transportation. And also based on our communication with our Chinese clients, they are more interested to explore the opportunities when they trying to invest in energy. They would like to further explore the opportunity in renewable energy storage and the manufacturing of the batteries via this flexible business models. So in general, we believe that outbound investments from Chinese companies are beneficial to the local European markets, such as Spain, because Chinese companies, they could bring in more complete industrial supply chain and also the most competitive products for the end users.
Pepe, just one question. Also, you mentioned the energy security and the need to continue to support this renewable growth with fossil fuels. What about gas imports from Russia?
Okay, yeah, that's always like a hot topic here. So China's overall gas demand is increasing, that's no doubt. Its proportion in the primary energy consumption increased from 5% like 10 years ago to 8% now. It is mainly due to the first driver is the decarbonization, like the 30-60 carbon neutrality target. And because the gas power, the CO2 from the gas power is only 1/3 of the CO2 emission from the coal power. So that's definitely one of the solutions if we're trying to decarbonize. Well, on the other hand, with more volatile renewable power into this power system, more baseload power should also be there to ensure the security of the power system daily operation. And gas is one of the choice to provide baseload power, means that they can always run, or you can always make decision when they can run. And so they are one of the choice among hydro, nuclear, etc. But you know, on the other hand, energy security is always considered a top priority, by meaning that China government will try their best to diversify the source of the gas imports. Russia, our understanding, is one of the countries that China could buy the gas from, and but Chinese government will always diversify the place or the countries that they will buy from the gas from. Yes.
Pepe, thank you very much for sharing with us your expertise and your view from this market and from Chinese companies. Thank you very much.
Sure. Thank you, Maria.
Next expert from Agora Energy Transition, a consulting company. He is managing director in Agora Energy, Kevin Tu. He's also an adjunct professor at the School of Environment of Beijing Normal University, and also he is fellow, non-resident and fellow expert in different international universities and agencies like Global Energy Policy Center at Columbia University. Also, Kevin served various key positions, including China Program Manager at International Energy Agency and other international centers and organizations. And he also has been managing positions at Sinopec, a Chinese national oil company. Kevin has more than 20 years of experience in energy sector, and today we have the pleasure to have this conversation with him. Kevin, hello, thank you very much. We are very happy to greet you in Negocios TV and to have this connection directly with Beijing. Hello, welcome.
Maria, thank you very much for having me.
Kevin, with your very broad and rich experience in 20 years more focused on China, we have several questions of the many more questions that we have, but at least we can address several of them. So on one hand, China has ambitious climate goals and has the concept of this ecological civilization. And on the other hand, the focus is on industrial development and on economic growth. So to what extent economic growth and environmental protection can go hand in hand?
Very good questions. For many decades, China has been focusing on economic growth. This actually has created consequences such as air pollution in major urban centers, ecological degradation, and rising greenhouse gas emissions. At some point, these issues become very difficult to ignore. Around the 2010s, Beijing's folks started shifting from prioritizing GDP growth to balancing economic objectives and environmental goals. So the concept of ecological civilization and approach such as economic new normal marks this major shift in China's policy to sustainable growth. In sum, in the past, China's economic growth has been primarily stimulated by fossil fuel, especially coal. However, looking ahead, China is expected to increasingly sustain its economic growth by renewable and other clean energy. So that's how the country balances different policy goals.
And you mentioned fossil fuels and specifically coal. And China really approved several environmental permits and authorizations to build more and more coal capacity. What can explain why coal continues to be the main generating source and the fact that its dominance doesn't slow down, really?
Yes, you have pointed a very important problem in China's ongoing energy system transformation. If we look at why Chinese coal production and consumption cannot be immediately stopped, we are talking about three major driving forces. The first one is the rising energy security anxiety among Chinese decision makers against the geopolitical tensions. While China is highly dependent on oil and gas imports, the dependence rates on oil and gas imports actually have already exceeded 70% and 40% respectively. So because the country has abundant domestic coal reserves and is primarily self-sufficient on coal, so coal has been increasingly regarded as the reliable source of energy supply security. The second fact is despite of rapid growth of renewable capacity across China, grid integration of intermittent renewables remains a very challenging issue in China as well as in other parts of the world. And power shortages in 2021 and 2022 also contributed to China's strategic adjustment of coal's role to ensure energy supply security. Last but not least, the ultra-high voltage transmission project in China are very capital intensive. To justify the investment, a common practice in China is to bundle renewable investment with coal-fired power plant construction. So this creates a very unique problem in China. The rapid growth of renewable development also come along with quite a sizable construction of coal-fired power plants. Having said that, China actually is well positioned to substantially ramp up renewable energy deployment to replace coal and achieve deep emissions reduction. In order to accelerate the clean energy transformation, the Chinese government should stop permitting new coal projects and adopt a clean decarbonization strategy, including an emissions cap, a coal phase-down roadmap, and measures to expand and strengthen the power grid.
And just we come back to the with this question to the renewables. In 2024, China plans to add 280 gigawatt of photovoltaic capacities. This is exactly already installed photovoltaic capacity in Europe. So what is already installed in Europe, China plans to add only in 1 year, just to give the order of the figures. But what are the main supportive measures of this development of renewable capacity in terms of technology and supply chains?
So if we look at renewable development, it's really very impressive. If we look at 2023, China had added near 300 gigawatts of solar power and wind turbines. By the end of 2023, the cumulative solar and wind capacity in China has already exceeded 1,000 gigawatts. So if we look at why China's renewable development has been so successful, first and foremost, the Chinese government has consistently provided a very supportive regulatory framework to stimulate renewable development in the country, including the manufacturing industry. In particularly, after China issued the so-called dual carbon goal of peaking national carbon emissions before 2030 and achieving carbon neutrality before 2060, the country issued the so-called 1+N framework as the pathway for the country's decarbonization. The one refers to the long-term approach to fight climate change, N refers different secretariat and regional solutions to achieve peak carbon emissions by 2030. In addition, China has the so-called the 5-year plan. It's a national policy blueprint for medium-term social and economic development in the next 5 years. The drafting of the 5-year plan started in 1953, 4 years after the founding of the People's Republic of China. However, if you look at China's 5-year plans since the beginning of this millennium, they all contains quite impressive supportive measurement in support of renewable development. I think the consistent support of the government as well as the ability of the Chinese manufacturing industry to achieve economies of scale largely contribute to the success of renewable development in China.
Very interesting, thank you. And well, also these developments happening not only in China, but also Chinese companies going to other countries to implement these renewable projects. And how this development and expansion of Chinese renewable technologies is supported abroad?
If we look at when the renewable development become a national priority in China, this actually could be dated back to the early 2000s, especially after China overtook the United States around 2006 to become the largest emitter of greenhouse gas. So in the next and every subsequent 5-year plan, China made strategic investment in all aspects of renewable technology, from solar and wind, green hydrogen, geothermal, as well as battery storage. In addition, if we look at how Chinese renewable manufacturing industry is supported by the favorable regulatory environment in other parts of the world, especially in Europe. It also happened in early 2000 when EU and many European countries started to favor renewable development against fossil fuel. Chinese manufacturing industry has taken advantage of the favorable overseas market, combined with its own comparative cost advantage. The Chinese manufacturers could achieve economy of scales relatively quickly. For example, in slightly more than 10 years, Chinese solar panel manufacturers could reduce unit cost of solar module by over 95%. So that's why China has been successful.
Very important. Yes, this contribution really affects their cost reduction, and all the world can benefit from this cost reduction. And another question is that, well, currently in the market and in recent years, there have been from other countries like United States, European Union, adapted some protectionism policies. For example, the IRA in the act in the United States foresees the development of national technology providers, and in the EU also they are talking about the CBAM to limit somehow the carbon product entering into the Union, into the territory of the European Union, and other commercial protectionism measures. How all these have already affected, or probably might affect, Chinese investment strategies in these countries?
So this is a really important question. First, we at Agora do not consider CBAM to be a protectionist instrument. CBAM is not about policing climate policy of other countries. It is an inward-oriented instrument. Having said that, some of EU's major partners, including China, do have concern about EU CBAM, including its compatibility with WTO free trade principle, as well as UNFCCC's common but differentiated responsibility. In this regard, EU as well as other Western countries should continuously engage China and other trading partners in CBAM and other climate oriented policy exchange. But meanwhile, if we look at how the Western country should balance supply chain resilience as well as taking advantage of the economy of scale achieved by free trade, I could give you one example. If we look at the recent data about the unit cost of a conventional solar panel, its cost differ across region. In the last quarter, in the United States, the unit cost of solar panel actually were around 160% higher than the Chinese market. In the Indian market, it's about 70% higher. Of course, this is largely due to trade friction between China and the United States, as well as China and India. By comparison, the unit cost of solar panel in the European as well as Australia market are still almost identical as that of the Chinese market. So that's why this is a very important issue, unless European countries could maintain an appropriate balance on this particularly important issue. We could, on the one hand, to ensure supply chain resilience of EU, on the other hand, to take advantage of the economy of scale of clean energy products achieved largely by free trade.
Yeah, so I think that the cost reduction will be a very important factor in deciding which manufacturers to choose and how Chinese companies will developing in European markets, for example. So to better understand all these Chinese policy, is it correct to say that China will, of course, develop all this renewable capacity and all these renewable goals, but at the same time, with the great support of nuclear, coal, and even fossil fuels to give stability to its energy system?
So I would say, as producer and provider of clean technology, China has a very critical role to play in helping the world reach the goal of tripling renewable energy capacity by 2030. So cooperation among key global players, such as the EU and China, is key to make the transition a success. But meanwhile, China also needs to overcome some of its own challenges, its own barriers to encourage clean energy transition domestically and also in the overseas market, and also needs to retard the growth of green field coal project, no matter whether we are talking about coal mining project or coal-fired power plants. China has already stopped financing overseas coal project. China should also apply the similar principle in its domestic market as soon as possible.
Could you please share your personal expert observations that you work a lot with Chinese companies and European companies and US companies? What are the main projects or main pillars currently right now of this collaboration you observe in the market?
I would say when I exchange with contacts in the corporate world, no matter whether I talk about with this issue with European, Chinese, or American contacts, one of the major concerns is rising geopolitical tensions. So, however, if we look at the looming danger of climate crisis, unless all the major economies in the world, including China, including European Union, as well as the United States, could collaborate with each other instead of undermining each other on clean energy transition and climate change, the world would be hopeless to reach the Paris Agreement goal. This is actually a very important from the perspective of the business community, they are still largely in favor of a free trade regime, as well as, of course, national measurement to ensure supply chain resilience in different parts of the world.
Kevin, thank you very much for sharing with us your explanations, your insights, because it's really important for us and very interesting to understand Chinese policy and even more directly from China. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much, Maria, for having me. All the best.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Hemos visto hoy con nuestros expertos que China ha comenzado a restar la importancia al objetivo de la tasa de crecimiento económico a toda la velocidad, cambiando este enfoque hacia la calidad del crecimiento, tratando de equilibrar ambos en este proceso. El país ha logrado realmente un progreso extraordinario, posicionándose como líder mundial en energía renovable y en vehículos eléctricos. China ha contribuido a los cambios mundiales en el sector energético y ahora es China que está cambiando. Esta transformación ya ha hecho que las relaciones entre China, Estados Unidos y Europa se tensan y se aflojan, pero todos son conscientes de que no pueden tensar las relaciones hasta el punto de la ruptura por esta interdependencia económica. Seguiremos al tanto de estos cambios y las medidas que definirán el sector energético mundial. Mientras tanto, os deseo muy buena energía y hasta pronto.